Busan for maternity be my car by the Babijum, offer some you and yes, I simply mu ebre and our son. No, so about my pound sima, edumidi cababium, and pay, send your only down a bon on so na ye sim conya, edging dream or mine Ghana home, any penny for onimude, a far and somewhere ye be so no, ma and I'm sorry, so more much margin, it's me and my mine Ghana, it's me fire into my pa ifra. And if yada may be some minute a tosso a yemiensa. Na ebisi sabre no one more I feel no my joining amanone from Switzerland to Australia to Austria to Papua New Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon. Am I who do P so Nigeria, Liberia, and pay cheshamina edamwase. Se monam sayo so ama multi TV any Belgium I number 1. Yeah, na ya dwendwen ho no ya na dwenkyere no edoso papa also DB eba ye bekinkan ama wiase amansan nyina etimi atibi 1760 a short code network bia wo so bia no utimi sane ye de brain ama no ne for ya na mo complain also ubetimi asane email kaba@majoonline.com kaba@majoonline.com and ubetimi asane Twitter Kojo Kaba na afi yet meeting common to us. And any December ko any say Oko Bui Power Authority bia yi si enyina mahoden ehun nsem no a ne port ana say afidie no ba ko be hya say adwuma na e de 133 megawatts ahonyina mahoden ne de aka ho mampani mahama e na e ba akodi say adwuma die ba kopa ho entoma e bibisa say ene yenka ne asem no etesen na enkoma ye bedwenwen ho na ado some justice pegans and some no eno nso so ho asem ye di kan ya kire mu dada but quickly yenkwa homa so lawyer Godfrey Dame kan lawyer fo a odi asem no de man na ado enra ebra court etina ase na justice so a edi asem no yenkwa homa so ni nkobisa ne se baby asem no asie no so ampa se etu atwa no ya obi ntimi nko reason or court bia mu ana lawyer Godfrey Dame anopay ye moachi e de ba bedwam wo multi TV.
Okay, so say.
Nyame Adom ye ho yo now so
Not too bad.
Court Supreme Court say the entire ton case why busy pa.
Really.
Ye de yame ase. Na ye misa enran so apart from Supreme Court na de bia ye hu na ja wo hwe nkrata mi pink sheet na wo cross examine wo hwehwe mu a. Ye enra na nado asemi just pegasa ko pie mu e wo court. Na court no tena se no sani asem ne wato asem na to atwe bobo so kakra die nyina so be na court no tena se a wato sa asem no to twene ye
well injunction the evidence na submitted to court no I think about close to 2 months ago na just figure filing the case no and Nado was very surprised because as far as he's concerned he'd been a lawyer in good standing for almost 40 years in Ghana and more than 40 years since a friend of England. And then he had also appeared for Jaspega on numerous occasions in the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and what have you. I mean, a lawyer, I've been a lawyer, not just mediocre one, but a very prominent one for that matter. And I should just do some investigations for him at the General Legal Council. Because General Legal Council now, almost keep records of all the lawyers in Ghana who have been called and all. And there's what we call the Rose Book. Now, Rose Book now, the fraud about was signing womb. We signed that taking access to a lawyer. So he made me conduct an investigation, the General Legal Council, and I got a copy of the extract from the Rose Book. No, mommy, file which I attach it. So based on that Rose Book, the extract from the Rose Book, now that's no, it's okay now. That's just I think it's any because Justice Pegan Sapose or he was a member of the General Legal Council, then you should have known. Say, for the records of the General Legal Council, Ronaldo existed as a lawyer way back in 1975. The court thought that the whole case was frivolous, vexatious, had no merit in it, and also the facts as adduced by Ronaldo were not contested. So that was the basis.
Now, ono just pegane lawyer ora dividanan. Arguments been no raise you or court.
Well, dividend for late. I don't know penna or filing papers. Sorry, lawyer for Justice Pega. Justice Pega filing case no. Also, I say we defended no. But your court Thursday and one show up for the different lawyer and buy. I don't know so the dividend number. Dividend file 5 papers be. That is now there. You carry a long time. Ruling I already know. What I come to do. In any case, the evidence that was at this Ronaldo was not contested. So what was the basis for your intervention? Or Tina no ball and arguments to agree. Let's went ahead to read her ruling, which was in our favor.
Near Tiana said just Peganra or no Ankasa court, no cressa.
No crown answer by or by court on a lawyer, they've done them. Yep.
Now, say, ye dear Semi High Court in the dear seminal. One remuno, ye bear expect, and I hear any musa will be betting me as I cause there be a some way any years. You bet me after a court of Rubiabium.
But as for right of appeal, global use case be all right of appeal. Indeed, of course, just figure will have a right of appeal, but definitely I would be very, very surprised if he pursues that line. But I will not put it beyond this. That's figure. He's used to do all kinds of strange things. So I'll not be surprised if next moment we want to file the appeal and also file whatever application that he will consider to be fit. But of course, the evidence is there. So really, in so cry, no, sorry, bro, yeah.
Because Joy FM, any lawyer, dividend and Kasa, and I'll see in 2 weeks' time on the appeals court.
Well, no, maybe which why they rely on the same evidence. And so we have nothing to fear. Yeah, Colonel.
Anyway, you, I don't pay a bed was it. Now, yes, yeah, now I am a Mutin Council was answering.
Okay, right.
Godfrey Dame, a lawyer to Nanado Danko Kufuado, a court in Sensemu, say William Adudanko Kufuado, and Nanado Danko Kufuado, Akofa, ni certificate, and our dear Jumasa or Noa, a lawyer ni. No, what is any lawyer Godfrey Dame, a chunko. You better say Dura dividend and Yen Sabekan now, no, so Yebisano. One more moon, two, if you sabri, it's answer just Pega, or call court to no, or can say 2 weeks' time, dear. Trailer in Manila, a bebaso, na and one some so at a saying. Does it give us a maximum of 2 weeks? And we shall be back in court. Tiabajin Honebisa. Lawyer David and the implications Yanko lawyer David Annan lawyer ni Edema retired Supreme Court Judge Justice Francis Pega. Lawyer David Annan, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I see all of you have started calling me. I just came into this matter, so the initial parts of it, were not at my behest. But let's go on.
But I understand that you were in court on behalf of your client yesterday.
Yeah, he engaged me on Tuesday. And apparently they had gone to court before that. They went to court, I think, on the Thursday. That's last week. And yeah.
And your client didn't give you all these updates?
Don't forget, he wasn't in court himself, was he?
But he had a representative. I remember one lawyer, Gentoo.
Yes. Now, lawyer Gentoo disputes the fact that the matter was argued and the application was moved. So he asked for an adjournment. But yesterday, when I raised this matter with the judge, she said Gentoo did not ask for an adjournment. But that is what I've just confirmed from Lawyer Gentoo about 5 minutes ago, that he did ask for an adjournment, and his impression was that all the discussions that were taking place were not discussions as to one that or anything that would produce a ruling. And that is why yesterday we were not aware that it was supposed to be for a ruling. In any event, the basis of the whole application was that it came on 3 grounds. Abuse of process, frivolous and vexatious. And the third one was that there was no cause of action. Now, the judge threw out two of the grounds that Nana Akufo-Addo came with. And I must state that apparently an affidavit in opposition was not filed on the first day. So when I was engaged on Tuesday, that's 2 days ago, I filed an affidavit in opposition, but Wednesday was a holiday, so we had to file it on Thursday. Yesterday, that's the day that the ruling was supposed to be given, and the judge said that it was late. But I was telling her that once an opposition had been filed, it would be best if she adjourned and considered it before reading her ruling. But apparently there had been an argument about that before I got there. And I think she had conceded to Mr. Frank Davis, and therefore she found it difficult to go back on that. But it's a very good case for an appeal. I'm not too sure whether an appeal will be made or will simply file afresh, because it's only been struck off. And that's why I said that it's a crab-like step. It's like a crab. I see Akufo-Addo and his lawyers, behaving like crabs.
Crabs?
They're walking sideways, because if you strike out my application, I'll just come back. When you cut a tree and you don't uproot it, what happens is that the tree grows right back, and that's what a striking out does. It's a sideways step, essentially.
I see. But, just one step back. You tell me that Lawyer Gentu just confirmed to you a while ago that when he appeared in court the last time, he rather asked for an adjournment. But how come the court decided that that wasn't even actually the case at the time? What really happened?
I wouldn't know, would I? Because I wasn't there. I went to court on this matter for the first time yesterday. That was the first and only time that I appeared in this matter. I told you that I was engaged on Tuesday. And it happens to be that, according to the court, that was after the fact of everything being argued. I can assure you that had I been in this matter from the very beginning, there's no way that Akufo-Addo could even have won the last ground, because they lost on two. They came with 3 grounds. I've told you what these 3 grounds were. That is that there was no cause of action. That was ground 1. That the matter was frivolous and vexatious. That was ground 2. And that the matter was an abuse of process. That was ground 3. Now, these grounds are given they're matters of law, given by Order 11, Rule 18 on striking out. There are 4 grounds that you can come on. They employed 3 out of the 4. And I'm saying that the court dismissed 2 of those grounds. That is, the no cause of action was thrown out. The abuse of process was also thrown out. And incidentally, a sort of ground which didn't really come within the order was advanced. And that was that we were in the wrong forum, and that Justice Pega should have first gone to the General Legal Council. That ground they also lost. So I was surprised that the least, would I say, the weakest ground, it being frivolous and vexatious, that's a very weak ground. Because
as determined by yourself.
Pardon?
As determined by yourself or the court. How do you know that that's a weak ground?
By practice. As determined. Who am I speaking to?
My name is Kaba.
Yeah, so as determined by the practice. You see, if you come on the ground of no cause of action, that's a very strong ground. Because if they tell you that you don't have any cause of action, you might find it difficult refiling or, coming back. If it's determined on the ground of abuse of process, that's not so strong, because then you can remedy whatever abuse they say you have committed. And then if they say that the action is frivolous and vexatious, it's entirely a discretionary opinion that the judge gives. So it's very weak, because you don't determine that when you haven't gone into the matter. And we haven't gone into the matter. They have not even filed a defense. We have not started a trial. It's just like in Akufo-Addo's case, this petition before the Supreme Court, at the very beginning, if NDC had filed an application to strike it out that it was frivolous and vexatious, and that application were to be granted, I'm sure a lot of people would cry foul, because they'll say, no, let Nana Akufo-Addo have his day in court. Let's hear him.
So you think that the court has not been fair to your client?
I'm not going to waste my time, because I am a trial lawyer. I am in court practically every day. I have several cases that I do. And so I'm used to these things. You know, these things happen. So it's a waste of time, you know, quibbling and complaining. What you do is that you look for the solution, you look for the remedy. Now, the solution will be twofold. Either Justice Pega has indicated, I believe, to City FM that an appeal will be made, or we just file again. That's why I'm saying there's a sideways step, because nothing stops us from filing the whole case all over again. So if you can do that, why do you waste your time complaining about the ruling? Just ignore it, because in any case, it went mainly in our favor. Even though, you see, because each of the grounds is sufficient to strike out the case. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. And I was just about asking if you have had the opportunity to speak to your client since there was a determination of the case yesterday. Have you had a chance to speak to him?
Yes, I have. And as a matter of fact, I have already, yesterday, I've already prepared a fresh writ and a fresh statement of claim. Now, that is now with Justice Pega to study. And if he gives me the go-ahead, we'll file it as soon as possible.
At the High Court?
Yeah, the High Court. That's where you got to go. But because he has intimated that he might go on appeal, I have to wait for his instructions. The thing is, if you go on appeal now, it will take you about a month. If we file afresh, it will take us a day. I've already finished all the processes.
But aren't these processes conflicting? Whilst your client intimates that he wants to go on appeal, he has on another hand instructed you to prepare another writ to be filed at the High Court. Yeah,
because you've got two options.
And he wants to explore them all?
That is the point. So he has to consider both options. Because, look, if you're going on appeal, you've got to wait and get the ruling. Getting the ruling will take us about a week. After getting the ruling, you then got to prepare the record. Preparing the record of the application, what happened, will take about another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's a month. And then you've got to wait for a date. As a matter of fact, you've got to serve the other side, and then you've got to wait for them to respond. And then you've got to wait for a date for the appeal to be heard. This could take about 2-3 months. You know, so I have to leave it to the discretion of Justice Pega to do. But what I'm saying is that I am amazed and disgusted at the behavior of the Akufo-Addo team.
What have they done?
This is an application that you won by default. And when I say they won by default, even the last leg, that is the frivolous and vexatious, was granted because the judge said we had not filed affidavit in opposition. But before I came into the matter, the legal team did not file an affidavit in opposition. They thought it best to rather file for summary judgment.
I see. But, you know, whether for those of us who are laymen, the understanding is that whether the case was won on even the weakest grounds, there have been a determination of the case. And so, your... No, please. See, you don't use legal terms wrongly. This case has not been determined. The case has been struck off. Two different things. You determine a case when you go through the full trial. So what you can say has been determined is the application to strike it off. That has been determined, yes. But the case has not been determined because the case has not been heard. Do you understand the difference? I do. But would you take anything from the lawyers of Nanado in basking in this glory because
glory.
As it stands now.
Look, yesterday, I was the happier of the two parties.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, paradoxically. That's a paradox, but that was the impression I had. I was happier because if you bring an application and you lose most of the elements of it, when we had not filed any opposition, in other words, what this means is that the case was, the application was determined solely on Akufo-Addo's arguments. Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, we did not have arguments before the court. And the court said that. So the court said that because there was no opposition, and because we had not, by not filing an opposition, contradicted the assertions of Nana Akufo-Addo's affidavit in support, the judge's hands were tied because there was nothing to contradict what he was saying. And therefore, she had to grant. Even then, you can see the reluctance because most of the grounds were thrown out on purely Nana Akufo-Addo's arguments, not our arguments. So in other words, we were not heard.
I see.
Yeah, so it was a one-sided evaluation.
And you still believe that your client has a case?
I beg your pardon. I just told you that we have prepared a fresh statement of case and writ of summons. So I wouldn't do that if I... You see, there's some things I don't want to say because the Akufo-Addo team attached 2 exhibits, one from the Ghana Law School and another one from some inn.
The Middle Temple Inn?
Yeah, in London. Now, the authenticity of those was not brought into question because there was no affidavit in opposition questioning the authenticity of those things.
And you have your reason to doubt the authenticity of those documents?
Let's not jump the gun. We will get there. If anybody thinks that this matter is over, that person is living in cuckoo land.
So there shall truly be a thriller in Manila?
There's going to be part 2. And with the part 2, if Justice Pega keeps me as counsel, I'll be there. And you can rest assured that when I start this matter from the beginning and not from the end, there will be a different conclusion. Now, I'm not boasting or, beating my chest, but I looked at what they said. I'm encouraged by the comments of the judge, and therefore I can see that had an opposition been filed, the matter would be granted. And see, what encourages me even more is at the end of the whole thing, the only part that I played was in opposing the request for costs. And Mr. Frank Davis strenuously argued for costs. I opposed that, advanced my reasons, and the judge upheld my objection to the grant of costs, and therefore there was no order as to cost. Now, if you win an application, the way they've been throwing the celebrating and stuff like that, you won an application and then the judge did not find it meritorious enough to award you costs. It speaks volumes about the way that you even got the application. Don't forget, I'm saying, and I want you to keep this in mind and put it on record, that they won that single ground because there was no answer from us.
I see.
And therefore, it was a one-sided evaluation of the evidence. So clearly, if the opposition that I filed yesterday had been considered, because I did file one yesterday when I came into the matter, but that was the same day I'm telling you that the ruling was to be delivered. So there was an argument about that. Apparently, that argument had taken place before I even got to court because I had another case. And so I got there in the middle of proceedings yesterday. And apparently that argument had been held. And the judge was explaining to Justice Pega when I got there. So then she...
So you were actually, late to court?
Yes. Yeah, because I had another matter. Don't forget, this wasn't in my diary. as of Tuesday, I did not know I was going to represent Justice Pega, and some other counsel was representing him.
I see. Anyway, Lord David, I want to thank you. I will certainly follow this case if you do file a fresh suit or to go to the appeals court.
Let me just say that as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow. So if the sun doesn't rise tomorrow, then we're not going to file. If the sun rises tomorrow, know that we will.
Thank you very much for your time here on Multi TV, and I do appreciate it. Thank you. Lawyer David Annan and yete ninkano na brofono bebre ni nyina no the tie wo mi nyina ne se ojaje a wotena asem no so nra no wo kire se nyina so miensa na Adom lawyer for the call se ke ento asem no ntwene na so mienu court no to twene ma ba kopa na ogina so se na lawyer David Annan kire o na sa ba kunu ko ogina so na nan a eni ahoden enso so no isa se yadi asem no call na omo di asem ma jaspega omo anfali ene opposition bia no ese judge no ni option bia se so to asem no twene enti omo anka hwe ono akasa kwa so ye late o court say no asem foforo enti se awia sore wochena se nyame Adom na wochena yete ani na se awia pie hu ombe file o se case no ombe san court biem na eno ho asem ena yedi abrewa no pay na me wolo ya ni nsu ofia enti oba su watie bi me ote ona su mo no so be kire processes of court any near court so was answer moon lawyer yaw boaben asamwa se me ka kire se misano na manyi kakra na me so bibire sa GTV utum se what one obisa kusai hey what do you mean pay
Then what be jail? Come on. That's it.
Deputy Communication Director, New Patriotic Party, a member of Nanado's legal team. And you're Nanado per se, but petitioners, legal team or court. I don't know why not me didn't come out telephones and I was say.
I
don't know.
What the going here to prove a David and the just I said we are boardable. And I mean, in a car park and who's a bit trouble. And let me say, I said, we know what Jaswa. Hey, Syria Council David. I said,
now, so watch it, the moon, or see case in fiada, or say none of banana, just pegan born a man here, and a Ukwadan Sunday holiday. 18 when you're waiting, and run on a panna, your church has seen a channel says, so file opposition. But na elite nti no judge na ntie na odi asem no nti onu de onyi ni sa asem no onu mu wadi for nti akwa file fresh case high court or sana instruction is in nature.
Okay. Nti Justice Pega you retired Supreme Court judge or active chief justice da and a lawyer back on so lawyer
Gentu
omo mienu no omo ntimi save omo ho David Annan be save wo omo
and ntimi save wo omo
so just begin o see most one any case on one filing a rates on one kasa wo radio so no prosecutor asemi wo radio so den dan dru ho no nanamoko file motion to strike out and dismiss suit no say for so be any so omo dey attach affidavit ni evidence chese na a lawyer the man Justice Pega no wo mri pi ya obetimi afale affidavit in opposition da omo frasem na no se ne ho mfa na wa anko court no o ma lawyer court lawyer na anko file hwe
David Annan say lawyer no ko plead adjournment and so court no kire enra only David Annan say enya adjournment no me no mu raise arguments
sa pepe na be pachen se fe do na ebe gi omo nkwa. If it's a lawyer no called that no, there were arguments. Lawyer na Justice Pegan's man, no, also a lawyer
Gentu.
Okay, arguments under the instructions of Justice Pegan. Those arguments, they didn't convince the court. Ena yapam woman. So David Annan per se okosum no sign Ekoye fichiri. I don't know how he is going to go about it, but legal, go and put it in, and the court will advise you appropriately. But it's so case, some papa omudi nkunimpa inkebeje cost etia wo. No dear. Cost is entirely within the discretion of the court. Cost, the court nepa or the man. But most of the time, in constitutional matters, issues like this, public interest matters, say, court entire cost.
No, any criminal impersonation, say criminal.
The matter has assumed a certain political dimension. What did they make? It's not strictly any criminal in the sense it's also a criminal. Criminal, they uncover report to Nama. Police never prosecute. Until whatever he's alleging is still within a civil because on what can be at your issue rated Tiana Abidjan who defended. What you say? If he is going to talk about impersonation here, he has to provide particulars and proof in the rate. So, in that sense, he means as a criminal, but apart from that, you need the echoes. Say, I must anima winning answer, but you can't distance from that. Oh, say you name say, Nana, I will court or a petition.
Mamma Koja Aquaba Obeto, so Openi Swagger General, Swagger Papa, former MP Edema Adenta. What do you watching? Okay, that's it.
Yepa Yebeka said, Bia and Fahon. And so the wagon to whom so wait me a cassette Fahon. Say Fahon, send Fahon, and I make us a butusu kakra. A man who shadow.
Relationship petition area and it's asking it was also be
my own limited understanding. Maybe say why energy so pursue ye be pursue nana a petition no cosono. You see what the kind of lawyers in raise no file or send a nanya lawyer until the chambers in our crown. Yunguno. Meanwhile, lawyers no mere petition they do not free and chambers or 70% of them free and chambers, including the lead counsel. But whatever TBN, the Akusiani say, court no, are at watching, say at the end, merit be where he is going to begin from again and show say merit or whichever direction he's going to begin from. We all stand here and wait to see. But I can't say me and say public meaning and I fed up, say a fact and a lawyer. It's a fact that Nana is a lawyer. Yenimno, why Jumano, Nidiako, law reports. In fact, who can lawyer back one? When you influence power, your constitutional development will Ghana crowd, and maybe this will be me a cassette, and I do need mutinti my power. I necras, I say me or the Supreme Court. The impact on democratic development of our country. You be weak, our case, we need some be free more by a quiet BCC, and they are two bar, and we will never be the same. All of us. The Supreme Court will never be the same. The Electoral Commission will never be the same. Political parties will never be the same. Ghana as a society, the way we approach our democracy, everything will never be the same again. Inti, me no me feel say abaseya. Inka ni papa muni say ombeje. Court akasai. Na ko mpe baby mfa. I said David energy so na ibetimi age on kwano na wasim no no de mojamono me adade no obeye de yehu bi da na o mapega agina ne naso dia ento ya boni e besi
ojo asemu e no no baby akosi ni but answer na beba na ni lawyer David Anan ene go freda me di kind in commoded that David Anan chese won be court to be
yo me chia ahwefo no say same way. My position has always been said, as far as I'm concerned, Nanado and you'll be a nipafufro on the political scene, and it will be so amount for any mono. Say or a lawyer. Juma Bonidia Dikai Esa Jumana and politics in Sokra BPM. You know, I heard in Kakra over the years, you know, say a war system beer. Everything me, I hear so flawed. A bear ma obia to me impersonity. Law, I mean, an answer about holding the home as a lawyer for this period. BC Sabrea, Sabian Prejudice. So many years, 30 something years. Actually, answer.
In fact, 40 years.
Yes. And you know, for me, there's one professional, if you say, the whole fraternity within that friend's profession. Kakra. They consider themselves in a certain class.
Hey, you know, my class conscious.
My personal reservations against. Yes. But that is how they they see themselves, and as they carry themselves. Maybe at an appropriate time when a bar as an issue.
Kind of prayer point because. No, because so no one wants to in fact, and basically issues are very going about. We ask him if
who this or more learned. Learned colleagues, learned friends. Sabiota Frache. Juma loan. The midindia, if you go as a machine. Yes, a friend say circular saw, and now planer, and now say a friend say sanding machine, and now spraying machine, and now upholstery in Yama. A BC or moon jam with man or moon bubo. No mufanya and konya tissue, a moon. And it takes learning to get that kind of knowledge. So,
no matter you may be obedient, Nipanesia, or you learn it. Jared no one comes on my job. My learned friend, my learned colleagues. Wabo.
They were me challenging.
Okay.
But besides that, Nyame Pachen say, Omo Doma Juma. So, I mean, it's the pride they carry with their profession. And on the man, so there's some sanctity at least they want to preserve.
Right.
So, you know, a bad thing said, Ube, and I've said it, I think, on your show.
Could you with them patrol ma in your ABCC? I wish I for a dime about this year. So we are everywhere in Ghana and beyond. And I pay Penny Koju Edwasari, former member of Parliament, Swaka General, Emma Adentana Fi. Yow, Wabia Samoa, answer na ebe Corona Koju can say be about learned colleagues in here, dear. But learned friends. And but answer na Koju Betwason, Mammy call Minister of Energy and Petroleum. And President Bibwe, first port of Badwam. Yes, so about before you change quickly and TV. Honorable Minister, I no pay him watching.
Michelle, for you now.
Hey, why you don't say you? I no pay you. That's it. Say for watching.
Yeah,
nah, I no pay you. Share it to saying 133 megawatts. Badwam.
Yes, it's a very long coming. Badwam, very touchy history. We started in the 60s when the Osajifo wanted to do it. They brought erections to do feasibility. Successive governments tried it. It became President Kufuor started it. It came and they basically took it off. Additional money was added. Over $700 million later, the first unit is coming. It's a very when the project started, a whole lot of challenges.
resettlement of communities, black fly disease that almost stopped the project. We thank God that all of that has been overcome, and this year Adom first unit of 1 to 3 megawatts is coming on stream. By the end of this year, it is projected to finish. Then to add 400 megawatts. That comes as a very huge relief to us, especially because of the challenges we face.
And the president to call near commissioner one port for the
one port. No president call commission. President of you or King Tampo, when power no producer, transport, air transport, no ever power no. There's a huge transmission project, and so you are evacuated through King Tampo. I ever could be, and I'm making sure say power able to me. I supply into the national grid. A very, very huge feat. Into a very busy day, but we thank God that the necessary support that is needed was given by his president, and I'm very happy that this day has come for us as Ghanaians.
Minister, we play Nezi Babituana. Now, quickly, you know, promise our mama say dumso a power load shedding management in the band. That man put in a say a band.
Yeah, that's it. You know, I did about Ghana for you now. The light must stay on. The light must stay on. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, problems. Ghana for they need the light for their lives. Yes, sorry, and over the light should stay, and that's our obligation. Now, the minimum say in the last few months, you know. Yeah, Bomardina, Juma, so President Koyo Commission T3 money by Koto other projects are making sure that they are online. And we see Babacano. They can say over 200 megawatts in a Koya man, which and to technically, Senia, as you see, I with the Bui, now with the T3 Abbey, with the Kakanwa. Just we are looking good. In fact, West Africa Gas Company, pipeline, almost $1 billion pipeline. Every gas is in Nigeria. On one promise here, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. They be engagement. Indeed, I'm calling for emergency meeting of the Committee of Ministers. Now, how this company is being operated, and making sure that. They are basically living up to their promise. Now, more than that, you know, we are going to do just fine. The Niasamedic count is you do baby as a gas in the buy and as a Sonia Sogrin in our account. And can you reserve margin such a way say, yeah, diet me that. As you see, I know, even though we are going to do just fine, no, reserve margin, no, near to because one machine is here running 24 hours. Said there will be a problem. Indeed, that's where we are. But we think that we are making progress. A lot of progress has been made, and we believe the massive challenges we face, we have overcome them in a lot of ways.
I see. Indeed. End of this month, end of this week.
It's on now. I've been it's on now. I think that you can feel it in your own environment.
I say it's not so extensive.
Very soon. I'm looking forward to coming to you. I will come.
Plane and yes, that's it. Emmanuel Kofi Amabua. Na yatin en kan on plane omuko bui ombeko akosi sunyai na omato aso enti eno ye one good story for Ghanaians kojo learned friends for the new film na
yeah it's not American yedin say sa professional no utumi do hu ko ram
no ram kra ma bread do
no ni asem no enti for me and then ya minim kakra sabe say ayi say in friend say obeto aboaboa no nim so fine. In that regard, no, minimum Justice Pega ne lawyers Eddie Babetre to the contrary. I don't know that, but that still doesn't leave any doubt in my mind. Say, me GD for now, no. Yeah, BBS I should be doubting whatever it is that I have believed. Two attempts and answer to have this case heard have all failed somehow.
It was dismissed.
Okay. It is ubikra tiachi wo sabi some hope be crass and cast same way bibia. We did say by now it's something
could you mind a direct question?
Right.
Ube to just figure for say your person.
Well, you see, if you ask me that question, I would say no, because what is it intended to achieve? I think the other day, I was Peace FM and we were discussing this particular issue. The only me feel they say, it be an another dinya or they call or dinya certificate. And he might not have sworn an affidavit of that change of name and Fankoto ne Krata so. Of course, media your friend is saying, and yes, I didn't know Anna medical school. At a point I made by elections. Now, as I said, me synergize me DBA me use na like previously, so that media me use and Kobana say Ochinanko to quine ukra passport bear this name. Now our parliament within a different name. Now documents in so ukra now we needed to put all of in an affidavit and have a friend say the koto a friend say so. Intimidate say bia no no mount for all format documents bearing that valid exactly. Inti so as I know na mbaye na call for the BBC. I think it makes some sense. Since Ebia, because you may end up going to find out that the name William Adodankwa Akufo-Addo and Nana Adodankwa Akufo-Addo are one and the same person eventually. Ebia, ubekwa kofi mu nyina no. That's what. So you want to find out whether that is what this whole thing is intended. Said there's some Nanado impersonating William Akufo-Addo. Well, a bit of. Well, for me, and I'm just saying, what is it intended to prove? So, because Uti lawyers now, and I say ruling a buy and even before then, who the General Legal Counsel for this in for Middle Temple in for so the Omodi buy. We read all of these things, and for me, unless there's something dramatic they want to prove, fine. But I also believe they didn't help the case by prosecuting the case in the media rather than that. See, many a time, no. Yana mu media for so mu kan na mu di jinse. Oh, the munanya
one. First, Papa no issue statement. Press release. That also yare no. I'm not gonna say issue press release. A copy media house, you know.
No pepe.
No
pepe na fe na just discuss and trade do susa now we buy a nuisance, a political
so unke agia. Ya me dey. Ya say se bedru be so ni be dey ni braba. Odo na se mo pa che say enye se di se san kwa o.
He's impersonating William Adodankwa. And so William no
you be fufro kra. En na nado asheda akofa
certificate.
Papa no eye o dey prosecute. Either say William Adodankwa no tiase no o baby and now we free mo. En na na se eye ono a. Enti Justice Bega has a deeper agenda che say or party say nana It's not who he says he is.
No, you see, and I'm not making say who will be Saka. Your approach is very important as to whether people should take you serious or that matter or not. Your approach is so count. So, for instance, one night, BB Bo. 21st was the 23rd April. See one
Trilla in Manila,
and subsequently, press release, Mona, a buyer, described the hostilities that took place and the fact that it be a hijacking court, no, you see, all of these things, no. The fool say, Mboa Emma Semino and Jinan and Asuye. But once I relieve, you know, say beyond exhausted in Hana or say 2 weeks time, BB's have a banner.
Engineer.
Yeah,
So
whatever it is meant to achieve, I can't tell.
What?
Now, some guys I'm afraid, I'm a lawyer, small baby, I'm afraid of double jeopardy. Is it? Does this fall under that?
Me person, I don't know. Double jeopardy is usually criminal law.
Criminal.
So when a civil, be an overcock of fat, different angle, be a you know the abba. But on the facts of this particular rate, Niemano and a number exhibit and the role of lawyers and the middle temple, Niemano. Sufficient
enough
to dismiss this.
Now, could you resist say, you know, why they so young? I don't know, lawyers, Mudim Washer Kukum, will be so would cry, sir.
Everyone went this up.
A sanity.
And when you
I'm not putting him cocoa with Dr. Son, or school, bread, meanwhile, they are qualified.
Sir, you may be there's a certain pride of place. Or can I say, the secular saw near the BC one near it. And a baby habituum, Belgium, Flanders, and the other side. Only the guilds by where master craftsmen were recognized. It's near ACT and guilds. Guilds in the NHS and say all these master craftsmen almost back together. Yes, they had pride in what they used to do. So you can say, Sabin handcrafted, be a demawa, a solid. A betche, a papa. So, over the years, no, that difference is that maybe some professions are easier to enter. But law, now, quite say, you don't just learn law and deliver one thing. You learn law and you are able to deliver on behalf of others. You are trained to be an advocate. They say, me bana say asemato as a media person. I will say immediately, me timisuya media sembia ebona me kuyano. Amount. A channel but took you, no quaho. That's an circular so I can inside. I was saying, Mikusia, carpentry, circular so Mojuma immediately said, they are meeting me. I could a baby, Akasa, a mama. That ability to become different professions through learning. It's very, very important. But there is no way entry is closed. Requirements are stringent, but entry is not closed. It's open to everybody. Many, many people learn law late in their lives and they thrive as lawyers. But yet, some special skills, no near the news. My akono. I will encourage you. They say, "Oh, ex-MP, Swagger General, Uncle Law School." Not just say, it's interesting. It's interesting.
For me, it's very interesting. For shaggy reasons.
Go your phone from our message. Send you no omudi law no me say, me so makoje me dey shame boto me na am so me a lawyer. Anyway, well.
Yeah, shadow. It's just interesting. That is why it's so learned. It's just very interesting. Why people get the Echo TV so you cry and so still I and shedder. Entiasie.
Latin negotiation.
This is amicus curia. Abia, my friend saying, produce body. Abia corpus.
Let's have the body.
You know,
amicus curia. No, minim the pusu no, but case no. A who yana pa or backward regularly. me na di ho kita ho kakra
Only na kasada.
Oh, me na kasada.
Amekuji.
Oba court regularly. Oba court. Minim say no na ni NDC phone be din komo, they were denying him, but he sits on the NDC side of the quota or whatever. Me na din komo ni NDC mpanyimfo na nam. I'm not saying where he belongs, whether he's NDC or NDC. There are other people independent who are in the court, but me na din komo pay ya say Casey obviously is on the side of the president. Now, amicus Korea say you are a friend of the court. Ubana assembly kosuna kasa a friend of the court. The opa chene say opese obeboa judges no. Say judge baako say judges mienso say judges full panel say ya. Now the wadwini bi eto emra bi kwanso bi no omo no eso sa adwen num no om di buatan na pepreyo eba. Nti friend of the court no o mmase ugina wo mo a wo court nanim no obi afa ne mmom no wo suahunu bi wani so ade hunu bi a court no mfa anadwene nkɔ so a wo de to court nanim a ebeboa court na mo matimi edi asɛm no a ɛda hɔ no na prepare you aba. Nti it's acceptable, it's allowed, friend of the court. Ne mmom no enra no de na ɔde bae no niema miensa bi etwene sinsan kakra. The amount application succeeded. Eddie Kaina. Oba no also a friend of the court. One so a neutral friend of the court. Also a friend of the first respondent.
That's right from the word go.
What teacher say? Oh, ba be boa court no. Who do me boa court no say oh be boa first respondent at the same time.
Every lawyer should know this.
Person boa first respondent. Oh, can a lawyer. Ti said the lawyers be usha Mr. Addison ote ho no lawyers be 10 omo boa ni nyina no all ye adwuma ni nyina no omo ye research no omo kasa che no omo boa na to do his case sa so na NDC omo lawyers electoral commission omo lawyers ni bebre nti person oboa first respondent ukohu ni lawyer no akoka na de wadwene aboa na nti court ne ka say oba as a friend of the first respondent enye correct so obeya
no lawyer no nim sa basic
said the Osi Casano Crano. Kakra. Osi Mano has a Casaco. I took Babusan, just a Sukubabusan. Hey, Ade, as the end of the one of the car, that's over so more than TV. Was you, Adom, and was said you're too wet. Almost no wedding. Go on, you'll see Wow Casaco. No, tenancy, no dumb wedding. Dom wedi wi no musa se krata na de aba no so ekwan de fa so beto ye nim no enye ne kwa pa
sorry for yahoo
well enu kwa ye nye den but Supreme Court krata bia na emotion no you have to add a supporting affidavit. So supporting affidavit say obesai say menyina so a me de bani krata na me de bana de na mbeze de beto ni menyina so a me de bani me sai say no kre menyina so no when sai also on the lawyer nti wo hia so obesai na om chense sa na ye no nti wuntimi gasa wo de wo ye lawyer nti wo ye de wo pe nti no susu ye de bo no sinsen enso owura atoguba nya abotrema no also watimi abeduru ho no nko ade asem tituru na opeso ka na opeso yi anoma no nti na asem nyina ne se president ye kunya so nti ntimi antimi no court constitution mo. And then he said, "Oh, if I didn't, run or they buy a coin or fast, so they I didn't buy no kaya just but because young pam. That also mean you cannot be a friend of the respondent. And Sakra so BCC sans and what can was Saman Casano. And so took me about check and say, yeah, pam dear, and so what's him to me, and one man now what to him. And what's him to say, ye didn't for president go court, and a major said, ye didn't wahano. A bill I didn't buy no your president. A fa declaration man here president. Nye president ye de na bakot was a multi abujo yesero sorry ko eneja owura lawyer Benoni Tony Amekuji friend of the court international lawyer okope the baby try
na ansana ko jobeba mo no
say man kan yambu to the constitution
ansana ko jobeba no and you may on say you share radio so me point no lawyer madam for lawyer bi so na me didi nkoma no otuma adwegina say most president a brother he didn't caucus no your president but he was a president and on handy over by 7 December election. He was the sitting president.
No. Semantics in the capacity of the election, he wasn't president. And the system na you have the sitting president whilst we go for elections. Otherwise, why was he a candidate in an election? We don't have an interim government. We don't have an interim manager of the country whilst we go for election. And that is why we talk about lame duck presidency. As at the time I yet to Abano, with reference to this presidency that he enjoys now, according to the constitution, which says he should be sworn in, he wasn't president. He was a candidate in this election. We are not suing him as president of the previous republic, which had expired.
But the individual is the same person.
He's wearing different hats. In legal terms, nipa ba kutimi hye eche bebre. What I say? In legal terms, nipa ba kutimi hye eche bebre. Ni hian se o define eche kro no a. So for the purposes of this suit, when he is being sued in relation to the declaration which purported to make him president.
So you sued candidate John Dramani Mahama, and not the president.
Not the president of the republic.
But it's the same person. To the layman.
But Antina was a Usem now who said a win or Shannon Sabri, a win or Shannon Sabri. Otherwise, why would he have to be sworn in again? What I say? Why would he have to be sworn in again? In any event, another BMA maker say, this is an opportunity. Name a P. Bessie say, na ye who say, I hope so the rest of the country is also seeing it the way many other people are seeing it. Say, swearing in, as the constitution provides, complicating a makakra. Complicating a makakra. If you say, yet no constitution is a asem say ba. Yen chin swearing in since I bear bosumi means.
Say na Kenya for your
Kenya Fondian, but Kenya Fondian bring it here. I don't also yes, because you can't do a quality process in 14 days na Kenya for na man. It's too short. But you can say beer.
Bosumi.
Young man say even March. Say asem beer and see we swear in January. Asem see yen swear in by March ending. That's the first quarter. And within that period.
Now we were between January and March, why not be a president? In this country, there shouldn't be a power vacuum.
The question is, if there are arrangements, there will not be a power vacuum. Say yes, we will make arrangements. There will not be a power vacuum. That is my position. What you say? Say yenina yen fire dwene nkoso. If you say, oh yeah, asemi buy up to bear marching in any emotions in the enko asem no ho. Nti susu ampa asenka ye ni president again and why ye emotions in join Daniel and ngi ni asemi. There would have been that urgency and pressure. So why can't we say if such a thing happens, the Chief Justice will act or the Speaker of Parliament will act? Depending on the circumstance, if it covers the entire election, including parliamentarians, Chief Justice acts or something. We, by law, thinking about it as a society, can create the situation so that is how we move forward and abide by it. Sam ran soon on Ojina Beka and say, Papa is sitting president. Amicus by Amikuji by say, Papa is sitting president.
Amicus
say, Wintimi ensue. In a sense, it complicates matters. In a sense, it complicates matters. This struggling to run a government whilst the government is being challenged in court. If see president, if we had not inaugurated the president in January, and I said we spent all of when did we start this?
Hypothetical, I don't know, say a prejudicial, I don't watch my agent, so now a lawyer. Who you pen after me call Kojoso. What Jane who said apart from say a hard, the court will look at those, even though constitution is a president, without prejudice, obey Koswai and a Jumani, blah blah blah. Now why the ministers, the security chiefs, court will look at all these things and say, but the no want to also.
Exactly, that's the point.
And the hard dream
chese. What way na eye obi say abodwo because the president appears to be working. Obia so atono boa yedin twen court. So you may get a false sense of security. So be bia the din cause to appointing ministers that other na otwe sign enye. But the question is enye. Then what you are inviting us to do is say next time no Obia na dwen say sa na beba dia enye election you do and die. I'll protect myself at all costs. Menti me ho asef say election nye twam pe na me feel see me a minya be bia mfa nko. If some dey go Supreme Court to cry ambeka say ya so a president in the enye yamfa ne sa. There are very complicated social issues. Into that argument about stability being in the fact that a president in cannot be correct to me. We desire that stability. I don't think see per se a kroi a butu say you walk out unti and I said yes a president. No, I don't think anybody wants that. If that was the intent, but once you are in court and the constitution allows a parallel process, say president Yensweni on forming a government, on your juma copim say court no bekasana. Say court no jina and also kasa. So ya DNC so wa forming a government every koso ide enye yemfa man sa enye sa ya hye adaje ni sika na bibisa. Then you may actually be making a fool of omo omadwen say omo de omania to court so nti omo nya basabasa. That there is no noise, that it is quiet does not mean that everybody is happy with the situation. It's a very, very dicey situation. But ultimately, the media, I think, say this will make Ghana a different place. Ultimately, no, I think, say, baby, I had a court, no, and it was a chair, a quanya, a baby. Just give me 2 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes on this one. Say, can you know, Nandi higher in power and say, Yabatuaba. Democracy. If we were coming from the era of dictators. Afi ya to Obama, edru babia. The higher in the quality of abaya to Venezuela, Benin, Kenya, and all that. And this is an opportunity for Ghana Supreme Court to lay down principles bia. If you are see a fan third world for na about to abaya preference. No, ye nya GDA say ya to abaya abujwa we will follow those principles and chart a new path in democratic elections.
And when na meet BBC, Raila Odinga, a grantee interview to BBC, and there you remember Abo. Na yadi atoto to home. Idi case in New Kenya on the perspectives in there. But could you do the
Yeah, I'm say lawyer Amekuji. No, you see,
Amekuji.
Assembly. Thinking through it, again, something worth testing. So that yes, a quite fast so the by 1 year, you know, and that's what I always refer to as form and substance. So one year na some papa bika, and so one fan fat ne kwanswa. Then the form comes to whittle down the substance, because at what point does a president who is transiting to continue the tenure, at what point does he lose his presidency?
Transition and continuation, those are the words you have used. So
yes.
He loses it within that range.
No, at what point? You can term it a transitional period, but at the same time the person holds the power. He still wields that presidential powers. So when is that lacuna which media determines a way on at this point on yet certain president? You know, and yet Bibia just because of the manner in which it was done, no. Rebecca say assembly yambongu. Of course,
you alone. Papa non koye na idie no sanfanko.
Maybe not at this stage of the issues. What I say, because as of now, you saw the judges' unwillingness to admit anything that looks like a waste or, you know, put some impediment in their way. And that is their reaction to this issue, including the councils for the various...
But try to deal with the substance.
say
Atuguba tried to deal with the substance.
he tried, but you saw the other judges' response to the Atuguba is there, yes, as the presiding judge, but he also takes the views of other people. And you share from Mojaji, lawyer Addison, Tony Lita, Kwasi Chachu. It was a unanimous to just, my friend, that was the impression that this whole thing sought to give. But I believe, say, it's an issue worth discussing on another platform. And call for with some case here, work court in Tinamana, but
to be a same way, yeah.
Now, say, we should prepare this issue properly and let's look at it. When the president loses from one term to the other, at what point does he lose the presidency to be served or to be sued and all of that? I feel say we shouldn't just probably the way I fast so then the brothel, the diction, the accent, you can't enough boom. It was quite dramatic and a bit theatrical. You know,
what's that?
Yeah. I want 4-year play, you know, some more reciting Shakespeare.
It was more than
okay, when you use it, we can continue. So,
it's, you know, also reciting Romeo and Juliet now. We choose two words, baku to embellish your. It was. I say Ghana, you can't call a Chinese play. Yeah, entertaining sometimes. But I believe, on a more serious note, let's not just parry the issue. Yeah, in Shekwaya, because it may not be President John Mahama. Always, it could be somebody else one day. And Yese, do samre na that's when others will see the essence of whatever the man brought to court. But are we talking about Supreme Court? I think so far it's becoming proceedings are court na emu shiba me na ya hwenra until yes statement we because
what do you know
what the na to say
or not the courtroom
one man
my journal
and mo say they or say
look at you die.
No, say look at the other day, or no, only Medra, no afana. No, I mean, we don't know the chemical in the person's into drink. When you come at least, look, that's for me, to go and sit in court from 8:30. Near Mamu break, 12:30. Now, once I back up to 4:30. I'm sitting, and yeah, easy. Parliament, never mind. Who, a friend say, "Otif fakun 80 proceedings," and yeah, it's not an easy thing at all. I mean, I doff my hat for you. My practice here, you are getting used to it. But I wonder how I can survive one such session a Supreme Court. I mean, attempt to say, me babe na camera ko pick me say me that because by means if I am a tonko and I be be a tonko
if it's interest.
You can say
General.
No tonko and no, he wasn't sleeping. And that the old day you need a certain posture to have a good sleep. You know, if you are tonko forget about. But then the issue about incriminating Baumia, I mean, yes, sure, say Chachu's intention, yes, obey incriminating Baumia, because I'm not sure that's the point. Is what should I say? Obabe kanokre, say a year Bible, say a year Quran, say a year. If I'm afraid the other one is affirmation on your own conscience. You know, there are times, I think in cross-examination, that's what Chachu was trying to explain. So, as I said, Utumikai, who friend said, Nipo, what with test box in him say, what shy a war, say a Bible, say a Quran, say a Intino. Number one, either say would defile it, sir, you know, who shy, the shy, you know. Now I know so, you know, as I say, who say, who shy say, Ubeka no cre, a war court no enim. It's a trace say, who say, Bibi why ya, a trace. What the interact record, and as if there's something to prove, say what the interact record. It me and also one who so I saw be, which is incriminating. It is a no nana yaw chairman na forget but then now patches say not chupe be there incriminating no na when ya, but I feel say you know na ye hwe documents are piled at the Abigu before a document you grab a copy court. You try the pictures at their two Facebook, ni all other media. They ain't share, won't share. Say tahu any. And the boxes near the Ashishano Chinchi Nina Aqua copy court. Now I know na the two patches man say we are what they call court. Documents you the same document, you know, at the Tarahu me, a beat the Tarahu me and son, a bean so cry and 9. And now I met the first time I met quadruplicates. Yes.
1,009.
1,009. I said, wow. He caught a good pass. He should be because terms ne brofu pa TB and it's really good. I mean, when your time stretch, at least every day you learn something new, and it is so fantastic so far. And it was to show, say, a Juma petitioners, no, a year, you know, ne credibility. Say, fano affidavits are almost buy any stamps are a CC so. Na stamp be say manual be electronic say there you won't mean who
stamp in
the stamp as I make the documents be a manual
be electronic
and you know I was trying to make some rationalization of what a manual document and an electronic document really, you know, maybe I'm not too good at computers and IT. Maybe I'm a bit my dada kakra. But I was trying to figure out, say, when you're churning out documents, numbers, of course, what you key in is what you get out of it. In Tianka, who key in? Now we key the right things in. A bed didn't say generate the wrong information when you've keyed in the right ones. So I've been trying to toss all of this in my mind. Even when it churns out the wrong information, who yasanka, safety, a person mu there be way the ancestor so it all goes to feed into that perception, say. There was a rush in the first place to get this thing done. Of course, if you had time, first time frame, court not the man, fine. You can put it under, say, and get away with it. But at the same time, the onus still lies on you. Say, also a mistake there. Not just say. even before the case started, it do baby from 11,800 and something. No, it's so ba 11,138 to say baby. He said no, even you. I don't know if you could reduce the figure. I mean, notice that the number of mistakes are. Mutimi. Wow. Mutimi, yes, I mistake. When you have you can make such mistakes and admit it as mistakes. And so the court should see it as mistakes. So then there's a question mark somewhere. No. You see, sometimes you have to ask yourself these questions. Say, I said it last week. And me call a try man for the trouble me pa for what I said last week. If like MPP4 benefited from electoral irregularities. But you see, most of them translate ye chi na ye can into brofono. Please, you have to be careful most of the time. And yet, boy, I move through. They call my joy online because me catchy. Now you pick me out of context. Now they call to brofubu in your own context and attribute it to Eduasare. That is where some of this bashing come up. I never on that program used the word fraud. I never used the word fraud. We say irregularities. So how come you go and put up a friend say banner? You also benefited from electoral fraud, and then you leave me out, open a gaping hole for people to just bash and bash that I am me just to say fraud. Indeed. So yes, I called and tried for you guys to play because last 2 weeks there was an issue like that. What you did is move my voice and so. So whoever calls me, I tell them say the chief voice is on the
accident.
Which one was that?
Accident.
Exactly. Mr. Chief voice no. Because me try bro I want you guys to do justice to that. When we are kasa because attempt the deeper and crofo edidime. But at Nyame adom awie me ba be part 2 of that reference war asempa. And this time I'm coming with empirical evidence.
Of what?
Of numbers. 2004, people voted in excess of for all the 10 regions. So that let people know. You see, we are educating our people because a lot of people, it comes as a result of ignorance. What I say, but when we meet and we are talking, a lot of people don't know some of these things. It's a book documented. So someone has to know. So we have come from a certain year na yababedu some pempeswe. So at the end of the day, we have to know history, how far it has brought us. So that said judges also this asem we are. Almost will maybe a document be worth referring to. So that they will know how far we have come, where we are, and what necessary steps. I say you did check your electoral systems. Any advisor that say electoral commission, you more you two or more phobia, you timid jinaso edia to safon. And it's so amazing the numbers you see. I yet that research, and this afternoon I'm on your show on I could see saying I'll have that privilege, God willing, to let Ghanaians know say. And yet, say Biota Frache 2012, and Saan may be Bria, FEC as in our elections, you know. Shassie, I'm not benefiting MPP4. What I say, and that's why I said,
and you went to court.
No, it's not about going to court. You understand? You're talking about the moral justification, moral authority. So, do you understand? And all of that. Until at the end of the day, you know, ye nyina ye nhua bibi efiri ni aye yenim na ye de ye kwakọ contest o ye kwakọ ye adwuma ewo electoral commission anamu ewo constituency the police stations no everybody should know say history be amboa your system no, so we should be careful what we do subsequently.
Right, movie premiere on Ekosi say the morality of 204. Any advertising though. The NDI why the 1 and 2. The NDC had every right to go to court. The provisions were there. They did go to court, but they went out of time. Whatever happened then, they were out of time. That's not justify what's happening now. Say Yemfanesa, Nebisi, 204.
We are only educating now.
We are in court. Now, whilst we are in court,
seeking to do a fairness
historical analysis. That's fine. But the important thing is that there are specific allegations in court now. Specific allegations. Petitioner's nature said there has been overvoting, there has been no verification, no vote against the law, there has been dual signatures, non-signatures, and there has been dual serial numbers used in this election. The petitioners have gone to the trouble of identifying all this, collating the data, and putting it before the proper forum, which is the Supreme Court of Ghana. It is left to that court to decide who is right and who is wrong. And until Nenra, Adia now Kasecha, say, Obia swear Koran, to one kind of Krani Adiadino. Then Yadia court no Krat, meaning a yard, because the court stopped him after Mr. Addison protested. If the Yachina Betchle, so be kind of Krana will be transferred. Obegina ho won't mimbo asem na nipa de ba ni ngui wosu wahu so de double aba enti o de bedada court double no de bedada court na say de wo krata na so no de bedada court enti for you to say so we true on hwe so asue ini ade na was threatening unnecessarily so ne nyase ma wo ka che no afi say o wie ni cross examination na beba kokosie bia no say Susuampa no ba omia ye trofo a ye court no be based on any man na akoso ntia no de anko yi in any event whether you like it or not papa na chi documents now can also pa ono so abegu registry. These are loose documents. Normally affidavit wo ya o clip bom particularly wo serve ni pa bebre a o clip bom se be ya anya dai emfutu nkofra because all the papers are serialized. But here's the situation. Documents they don't they are not clipped together. You are so free if you have a good court. The registry had to divide those documents and share it to 12 different parties. Clearly, the amount of handling that also went on in the registry could be a factor. Even Krano, respondents record their command code. Also, Saka, even the way he handles it could be another factor. And yes, there may have been slip-ups and errors in the compilation of the material. But it defeated the purpose of the petition. Say, you will duplicate serial.
But you know whether the court will take that into consideration because
it's a process. It's a process. In this matter, for me, the Amima Huni say, the court has not determined, say, the quantity of pink sheets being relied on is the issue.
No.
And you go back dada. FCS started, you know, you had the 4,709 and a buy. And you amend the call 11,916. You walk out, yes, sir. Every reduce call 11,845. And then we brought it all the way down to 11,138. As far as the court is, and this is also 8,000 exhibits. As far as the court is concerned, you know, if the allegations are proven, they are going to look for pink sheets with those allegations on it one by one. And it is the court which will decide, say, pink sheet way, it qualifies. Pink sheet way, the fatu in chain. Until 11,000 at the end of the day, because my day, assign about form. But at the end of the day, once the court accepts Basabasa, you'll be a kosono. The number of pink sheets in issue will be based on Basabasa, your cry. Until necessarily, these pink sheets will be counted. Necessarily, they will be evaluated individually. Until what being said, what will be administrative processes are sheets could very well result in that. assuming even it doesn't, the impact of those mistakes cannot be compared to the impact of the illegalities and irregularities which have resulted in the declaration. Because the bottom line, yes, the bottom line is whether or not those irregularities, if accepted by the court as irregularities, can result. Those are the two issues. I would be very, very surprised. The court Rebecca say, "Yehun said pink sheets were ye too. Inti you had the akanu na yembongu." If that is the aim of the NDC, which is obvious, it is not a full audit. It is not a full audit.
Anytime from them,
when it's necessary, because all kind sheets all kind, you must also be able to determine figures ne wasn't to use. Into na this in case ye ko kan kwade evaso be ne was. And ye evaluation ne preko. No mo say there be evaluation dey yesro. Evaluation ne mo aho. At any point in time, before this matter can come to an end, it is clear that that counting, auditing, evaluation, has to take place. Whether at the instance of the court or at the instance of the parties, going forward, we will know. But it will happen.
One issue, no, will be sending me email. We could do if you answer crana me. No, be beside meaning say beyond say pink sheets in a honor modia corner and any other documents. Is it possible say court in bit me? I can say. Yanko kind ballot papers in our box.
Oh, I don't think we need to go that far. Yeah, I don't think we need to
add to what he's saying. Who said, "Sir, Nema, we bebre woha." It doesn't, and yet ballot paper, yeah, share ballot box, and a problem. It is the conversion numbers,
the accounting
on two years, and no, that's where the problem. Usually,
this issue is about accounting.
Yeah. Okay.
What I say, but ballot counting, more often than not, you end it there. You do the counting on the spot when it is challenged.
I see.
All the way up to collation center, you have an opportunity to challenge and recount there once. But after that, very, very difficult. CSR could be boxes.
This is a court.
That is not an issue.
This is a court order.
That is not an
for
issue.
now. I don't think that it's no need the main trust of the.
It's ballot accounting that is an issue.
Okay.
And there's a process and method for the accounting.
Okay.
And if the process and method is not followed, then there are significant deviations.
Okay.
Your
time was on, sir. But we, Kojo, good. Your friend saying, readers as a papa.
Oh, sir. For me. And now, me program be now be kase. The best way to go about this thing can me put me if I were President Kranka. Me commission.
And Kenya.
No, sir. Me commission. But of course, it's something especially for Badwam. Bibia fufro at the fufro. Into a baye juma at least it requires sa. Commissioning. What I say, but say enka additional a year be as gas pipeline na ede yasiesie na ede background ka medenka yenye obi anyi di.
Amount be huna power na stabilize.
Exactly.
Then they will themselves begin to.
And I'll share. Hey, 5 days. Me like to. But of course, for Badwam, it's a brand new project, and it is worth commissioning. At least sending fan be a share Jumasia. Okay, say Mampenyi Beko Aquaco be ano. That one is all right. But then say bus streaming, the bus streaming in the Kika can hold you. And can't say I'm a can carry. Yenyan Boko, then Amra, Eba, near my for generators, no more. First say cold rooms near the Juma generators. Omu generators. Now fi omu yusu grade nankasa de omu Juma na other things and so koso. No more share bisa na dumso na amafo aturi din afa him. So then it springs a surprise on all of us. But of course, enchenche bia wanafi nti ye danyamiase. How far we have come, and the fact that young Ghana for well, one thing we be higher yakasa. We talk, and that's where it ends. Ye mbro ye ho, ye nwo ye ho asekaini yɛntoto yɛn ho atuo ne yɛkeka ka ho. And for me, that's one beautiful thing we have as a nation and we have to preserve. Because ibia ekoye baby bia
fufuro bia
anka ehun susu aso no na anka nyesi kra na ebekwa akoba no. We've had patience ye dibia ye if do yes bia serious no ye dibia ye serious ye dibia totum ukọ Facebook obi dibibi some signboard bi atro dum so na ye arrow to say kro bi kra ho ye dum so and the humor of it, you know, but at least we have accommodated the pressure and all of that. And I think it was managed, even though to the best of at least 60%. I'm managing only say politics now I can't hold no there. I'm also take advantage. And I'm the politics so kakra. Into gas gas in gas bar. Say and on to my na edumrea gas short 2-3 days 1 week hey now gas cry you been talk you be say any kaka but gas abe ya amount for etimi toy say ekroma idinti. That's how the beauty of the country we live in. Say, in spite of even Supreme Court, I say, and that's one thing I should also commend Justice Atuguba for. He's doing everything. Especially he's doing everything to calm nerves. And it's one beautiful thing, and I think say
I'm so because before I'm sorry, say na Judge Obaba Tama to go back and answer you. Also, and he also found with Yahoo.
I think it's good. It's good because tension now build it from the beginning.
But still tension more.
But tension bar. Car be a pressure build room. That's why you have exhaust. Pressure no build ya inya baby fa. Mo generators you won say baku kakra bi sure the pressure be efa. Mo dan nyina pressure build room a mo bie kakra man from afam. So in issues and cases like that also no, there must be that ventilation where a bar na man for a bit me be a ventilation no na man for etimi aye kakra but I'm say my lawyer na wash but sometimes okay say na kuma hana kakra
jaju na kuma hana kura wodi do we
na kuma hana kakra na nim the way the nim kra ni the way of bisa the questions ya na mo ni ndi nkomo na
you very stable
tension
jaju no some ni ndi nkomo
on vent football friends say extra time ni injury time ni time added on ya the version on the football aspect. Let's some small humorous aspect of him and I say
also woman way back.
I mean I'm saying
what Danoa na friend say
Kaba.
No, say,
me kaya by we can easy.
Come me cow back.
I don't be that soon.
Another soon.
No, me that soon. Doom so asem no abado. Sebi, enye me politics. One a day doom so by. Haruna Idris, Minister of Trade, no to Parliament, no catch for say doom so there. As a government, he has no excuse. And he said,
want to do so.
And with all the resources we have, we are still not able to manage. Look at the landscape. Kofa Millennium Challenge by the second tranche of Millennium Challenge, based on a quantum leap, is focused on energy. America are prepared to give us money to invest in the energy sector. Yeah, resources. Yeah, how we've looked at it. Gas pipeline. How many years I'm going? Oma cost strike. Says he can to at the end of this money is not being invested in it to complete it. Why? What are the priorities?
No, so say gas, CBD na ma ntina.
CBD ne ma ye no. Sika ya squander no krom ha na eburu CBD ne so. Ade na wo se ye ni koto CBD na emma no so. Ni yes squander sika ye nya ne wa. Why? If you want to invest and bring in any pa. If so bito ice cream kakra fridge ma esi store kitikiti o de hwe ne ma o school fees na ye dum kane na ice cream na nane asekwa na wasan akoto biegum na nane asekwa na me gwe trash. Who pays the school fees? If some Muslim pay me for free education emma. So these are serious matters. It is a question of the government organizing itself and delivering energy for industrial growth, for the small business person, for everybody to be able to. That baby. Me say na me dey sumo. Eba ebe
local.
Ye pesi ye nyina local. Ye daka ni debia. Ye pesi ye daka ni debia. But the fact of the matter is that this doomsday process has been ill managed. This doomsday process has not received the kind of priority I was saying. In particular, so was here the near to CBD was say. Between time I started pay CBD basically, go into government's accounts and see how much money has been squandered. Go in there. As you can know what you saying, how they share gas. Gas ni bit near save and sika. You did gas abandon it. Light crude, a good plan. It's not my profit. Because so you are going to be the other thing, West Africa gas pipeline. So am I. So until when it was so West Africa gas pipeline, you have problems. But there are opportunities in the area. That's what I am saying. There are opportunities. Me and Glosso oversee opposition for and opposition for politics near the government must sit up and show leadership in the energy sector. If energy is rationalized and is organized, a driver in human being, a microphone is bottom, a mahuto near but it is not going well at the moment. If say a human kitty p a human kitty p say, and now your baba crans and Albania chop money. This all pisca cotopetro so generator. Baba phone use generator. Even the danger to us of fires and all that unregulated generators all over the place. It's expensive. A shinkrophone a shinkrophosika. West Africa gas pipeline. I'm happy I heard the minister say he's convening an emergency meeting. 2, the Sinopec project. Pull out all the stops. There may be a gas on stream because that gas thing can relieve a great deal of stress in our system. Na money, na gas, energy, oil and gas sector. No, mundi design ye na energy nemra. Sebe ya obi a oton ice cream kakra wo fridge. Ketwe bi wo kwan afolo ni getreishi ni getreishi don't be dress school fees don't be dress school fees
abja wo embassy na anapay na session ko na e de man penifo a obeboa na
fans and test
and man fa na pa na ma nti
na sa ashu text man for ade omusika send bro no ashi
na session ko na e de ma Kojo sorry, Swagger General, Nanopay, former member of Parliament.
So good, later.
I law school. Law school. Now, mostly I'm passing Ubuseni lawyer. I am a
yellow crate.
Marty. 80 of Wabia, someone, lawyer, member of the MPP, Deputy Communication Director. And I know boy. Well,
and also, Sinino Bay,
Oh, premier of the
Swagger Supreme Court 204.
Make a date. As a pass. 94.7 of a radio position, bro. 2. Now, Assassin, and then Como Hopper, Gomo Brio. Okay, Dr. Rakubo will be my guest. Greater Accra Regional Minister will be my guest. Dwasare and all the others will be my guests. It's a packed show.
I don't know me title. No, some of you
Swagger
are
General
directly taking my title.
Swagger.
Though, me call Parliament. Yeah, the mammy.
Honorable.
Just say just because me
Supreme Court of 204 Supreme Court of 204 on the bench Supreme Court of 204
me juma me ba ye ewia no enye Supreme Court
nyame ya no a enti ye be shia 2 o'clock ewia na ye de nkomo aka na to aso de ama ye de efisem be to aso kusi 10 o'clock na ye de Badwam na megina ya ele na be ewia na se nkomo cameraman, sound, light, floor, director, obia Obama ye de phone ye de bro me ni kaba nyame ya no a edwada e be san mo hia